What's going on, amigos? I am still setting up here. I need to get my coffee. So, I'm going to go get my coffee. Hopefully you don't hear me too much noise as I'm going there. I got my GoPro set up. I'm going to have a hard time seeing my feed right now. So, hopefully that could get worked out. I might have to try to do it from a distance, but let's see what happens. I'll see if I can log on to the computer real quick and get that going. If you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up or something like that. I am trying to figure some stuff out with the audio still, trying to get multiple cameras set up so you guys can see what's going on here. I'm also trying to get my GoPro to record so that way we can have another video down the road. Let me reset this. Audio is good, not too much echo. Thanks, TK Scale Garage. I'm going to make my coffee, so that's the nice thing. I'm doing that off screen, and then I'm going to lock myself in the shop so no one comes in. What kind of creamer do you guys like? I'm all about that Snickers creamer. Oh man, I literally brewed coffee with no K-cup in. How awesome is that? All right, so let's try this again. Anyways, what kind of creamers do you guys like? I am a Snickers fan. I like that kind of hard, like kind of a sweet coffee. That's my guilty pleasure, I guess, if you will. Let's get this coffee burning one more time. Because let me tell you, I need my coffee. You can't tell by my Instagram post. Let's see if I can log in to YouTube here and see how everything works. Let's take a quick look. Oh, it looks pretty good. All right. No echo. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to lock this door. I'm going to finish making my coffee. Hopefully more people jump in. And then I'm just going to start burning. Door is locked. Coffee sounds like it's done. Time to put my creamer in. Hopefully this view is a little bit better than last week. This one being my second go at this. I think I got some better ideas. I'm going to let it run. I was thinking about doing one of those bumper videos at the beginning, but I know that they're kind of a pain sometimes to edit out. So for the replay guys, but I might be able to just do chapters for that, just so I could get more people to pop in before I get to work. Because then what happens is I got to answer a bunch of questions and all that kind of stuff. What are we doing today? Over and over and over again. So, coffee is mixed. Doors are locked. And I believe it's showtime. I'd like to see if I could get my other computer or my other phone thing to work so I could see what the comments are, because I have no idea what's going on. Crow Below, what's all going on? Ross RC. Caramel creamer goes in the garbage. Morning, David Ferris. Thank you, thank you. So what I'm trying to do, guys, is I'm trying to figure out a way where I can have multiple cameras on and see my comments. So I'm going to set up the shop TV real quick. And if I set up the shop TV, oh, wait. The secondary camera finally plugged in. So I'm going to throw that over there. Get my apron. Let's get to work. Let me throw this apron on real quick. Got to figure out a better way of having audio in the shop here. It's kind of one of those tough ones because there's no good way of having a camera a little farther away. I mean, a microphone a little farther away, and then having the audio go, because then I get a lot of echo from the shop. So that's a tough one. I'm going to see if I could plug in a new mic real quick to my iPad, because that's what's actually running my face-up camera. Let's see if this will work. If this works, then we're golden. Oh, but I don't think it fits in there. Don't think it fits in with my iPad case. Sorry for the jumbly action. Well, maybe it does. Let's see. Does it work? Does it work? Nope. Doesn't reach in. Next time, guys, I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll get an extension. All right. And hopefully that's not going to be a problem. My GoPro that I'm trying to record with keeps on spazzing out. All right. Here we go. Back on camera. Let's see if I can get this up, this old camera, or this old phone, and see if I can, I don't even know if YouTube's on this bad boy. That way I can see what the comments are. That's funny. This isn't logged in, so it's going to make me search my own thing, my own channel. See if it pops up, how easy it is. RC Amigos. There I am. There's the live. Let's go full screen. If it ever opens up. Boom. Let's see if it'll let me see what the... Oh, gotta turn it down. Because I don't want to hear myself. Okay, let's see what this does. I'm trying to see if I can watch it with the live feed. Or if it won't let me because I'm not logged in. Well, let's try this. let's see if I can control my if I could control this, then I could probably see it. Oh ho ho! Now I got it up on the big TV out there, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to see the comments from this far. Bear with me, guys. Oh, geez. What a pain in the butt. Well, it's not letting me see the app or the questions. Oh, wait, maybe it will. Maybe it will. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start going, and probably every 10 or 15 minutes in, I am going to look at, the comments as I go. Unless I can download YouTube on this. This is like an old phone, and I was just going to use it as a monitor, and it took forever to turn on earlier, so I was like, let's just see what happens. I'm sure this is riveting conversation. Let's download it. It says it's right there. Download. Hopefully this doesn't take forever. Okay, so while that's working, I'm going to set up this TIG in a minute, because today we're going to be doing some TIG welding. I was thinking about doing good old MIG welding, but in this kind of camera setup, it's a little tough because my MIG is loud. It's got the one thing I don't like about my MIG welder. I love my MIG welder, but my MIG is extremely loud. It's got a fan that's constantly on, and because it's constantly on, it's just super annoying. So I've got my two tungstens here. This is called a collet. Why don't I just put this together real quick? So my tungsten I use a universal mix. I think it's pink at Blue Demon Weld. I use that tungsten. Works really well. There's different tungstens have different uses. So like there's serrated, there's thoriated, there's pure tungsten. Things like pure tungsten are good for brazing, or actually it's probably best to use pure tungsten for aluminum welding, so AC welding. All the welding that we're going to be doing here is DC welding, so it just means it's not undulating the pulse or anything like that. And I don't set up a pulse control when I'm doing any of this welding because I don't think I need to. I have a foot pedal down here, and my foot pedal will actually allow how much juice that I'm putting into the TIG welding machine or into the TIG torch. So it's like, think of it as how fast you're going is how fast or how much current you're pushing through. So if you have half throttle on your pedal, you're only using half the amperage. Now, you might be able to see the TIG or the machine here, and I have it set up for this kind of stuff. I'm probably going to be in like the 100 amp range, maybe 120. It's a preference kind of a thing when it comes to this kind of stuff because it's kind of like having a really fast car driving on the freeway. You can go 55 and not use a lot of juice, or you could do 140 and almost max out your pedals. So I like to set it up probably around 120, so it's kind of like a governor. 120 amps, that is. This one goes up to 200 amps, 220 amps. It's a CK Worldwide machine. It's awesome. So we'll get to setting up that in a second. But so I put the tungsten in. A rule of thumb is the opening of your cup. So this is also called a monster gas shielded cup. What it does is when the argon comes through this gas shield, the wider the cup, the more envelope your gas shield is over. And what that does is that it stabilizes your weld. Having a lens on it like this, it's kind of like a mesh. I'm sure you can see it up there. You can see it right there. So having this mesh on there, what that helps out with is that helps lower the turbulence of the gas, so it keeps it straight. Maybe in another video, I'll find a clip of what that gas looks like. There's some really cool ones out there. But the idea is that this is called stick out. So like, for instance, my tungsten's sticking way out there. A good rule of thumb is that your tungsten should only stick out the distance from the center, so the radius, the center to the outside of the cup. So that looks like, maybe 3/8. So I only want my tungsten to stick out about 3/8, and that should be good. There's two reasons for that. One is to get that arc stable, a little further away from where the gas is coming in. And then the second reason is when you're doing a fillet weld, meaning, so if these two pieces are being welded like this, right? And I'm welding inside here, I've got to have enough stick out so that my tungsten can reach in there. If it's too short, then I can't reach it in there. If it's too long, my gas flow isn't going to be covering that weld very well. We'll talk about that too in a minute, because you'll hear it actually kind of like it's called purging. You'll hear the gas come out of it as it's going. Let me check this phone real quick to see if that app has finished downloading. And it says it has. It's probably going to ask me to log in, which is fine. If it ever opens. Sign in. Yes. I'll hide this from you guys so you don't see what my sign in is. Allow. Oops. See if this works. Next. Next. Nope, that's not the right password. Well, that's okay. I am going to cancel out of this. Let's see if I can use YouTube with it signed out. Because all I care about right now is seeing the comments. But I don't know if it'll let me see the comments without being logged in. Aha! Comments. Nice. Okay. Taco Chop, Casey Dolph, what's up? Need one of those wireless interview mics. I have one, but my StreamYard doesn't connect to it. So when I'm doing my normal videos, it works fine. But when I do it with StreamYard, it doesn't connect to it for some reason. So it's kind of frustrating, but that's what it is. Okay. So give me a thumbs up if the audio is still good, and we're totally going to get going. So you got a lot of screens, cameras going. Yes, I do. iPad, GoPro, but it looks like it died out for some reason. I don't know. And then up here is my phone camera, and then down here is my chat. So real quick, I wanted to say thank you. And thank you to Scale Metal Supplies. So these guys, Andre is an awesome guy to work with. He's sponsoring this whole shebang. And so what I wanted to do real quick is I wanted to do one of these bend and brace bumpers. I wanted to bend it up real quick. I'm probably not going to weld it yet just because I'm not sure how it's going to go on this truck. But I wanted to show you guys kind of what the process is real fast before we get welding on the frame itself. All right. Let's see. So guys, if you wouldn't mind too, if you like what you're seeing, at some point, if you would share it, that would be rad because then I could get some more people watching, which is always good. A fixture table. Yes. Well, you're in luck because I'm going to show you a little bit how to use a fixture table today. I think it's hard because I've got one and it works really well for me at home, but here it's not as efficient because I have a big 10-foot steel table that I found on. So, okay, so these are awesome. So I don't know if you can see, but there's lines cut in it to make it easier to bend. And so what you do is you fold it up and you can make a bumper out of it. I use these sheet metal pliers, and I've shown on another video before where you don't need to. You can actually use a normal set of pliers like these. And I'll show you how you could do the smaller parts like that. I just like the bigger pliers for the longer planes. Just makes life a little easier. And so what I'm doing here is I'm bending this and I'm kind of going back and forth so that I don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted, boo. So you can kind of see from this angle that I'm not going to go full 90 yet because these have little teeny tabs in between the metal. And if you go back and forth, steel will work harden. And you don't want to break that. It's not the end of the world. It's not like it ruins the bumper, but it just makes life a little harder for you when you're trying to hold it in place and weld it. So if you just go a little bit at a time, it really helps out the cause. Okay, so I went a little bit on this because I know when I bend this over, this angle is going to want to come back to meet it. So I'm going to bend this down this way. I'm going to bend this down this way. And it's like origami. Look at that. Everything lines up. It's nice. So I'm going to work inside out. All right. So this one bends in. Now I think it's time for me to close this top part. I'll get this close to 90. There we go. And you can kind of see how that's getting closer now. So let's bring this down. Nice. Okay, so this one has a little bit of a gap to what fill with weld. But that's okay. I can do that. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if maybe it has to go back a little bit. Yep, that's what it does. So it went back a little bit. And now I can bend this one out. Who else is having problems with their allergies right now? All our trees are in bloom, and it's killing me. All right. So it's just a little finesse here, kind of getting everything to line up nice and easy. So you can see already, I'll hold this up. You can see how it's already kind of forming that three-dimensional bumper that you see on a lot of these big trucks, all out of a flat piece. So that's pretty rad. I really like how these go together. It's got a fair lead cut into it. I think this is for the RC four-wheel drive fair lead, so that you can just bolt that through and have the piece going over it. And it's got the SMS anvil in here, which is pretty rad. I don't know if it, why don't you tell me in the comments, can you guys see that kind of stuff, or do you need it to be like way higher like this? And, you know, maybe I'll do something like that. You guys let me know what works best. I'm looking in my monitor and I think I know the answer already, but I'd rather hear it from you guys because you guys are able to see it, not me as much. Okay, so let me bend this. Yeah, this looks good. Quick show is always good. All right, well then I'll do that. I'll do that on the next time. We'll go through, and this one's actually pretty close. So it's not all touching right this second, but when I go to weld it, I will clamp it down to the table and whatnot and make it touch. Uh, so here's that. And you can see how all the pieces kind of zoom in or align, and it gives it that dimensional bumper look, all from a folded or from a flat piece. So what's cool is that you could still weld a plate up here or drill through it and put your scale bumper or your scale, what's it called? Winch, if you wanted to. But, you know, it's going to look pretty wicked on a truck like this. So just for a frame of reference of what it would look like, I'm actually probably going to make it up higher on the bumper, but it's going to look something like that. And that's why I'm not welding it yet, because I got to figure out that crossbar. I've got to make another plate to mount to the side plates on this. But yeah, okay. So let's get welding, huh? Let's turn on the welder and let's figure out what parts are what here. Because I'm going to have to do some cutting. So I pre-bent all these. It's kind of like a cooking show, guys. Pre-bent everything, kind of pre-pepped everything. And now I'm going to go through and start tacking everything together. You'll see the fitting process on how I have to fit pieces together. Like for instance, this is the front fender piece. Where does it go? Yeah, like this. I just cut it long. So this is going to go like this. I think what I'm going to end up doing, the reason why I made this just a little bit bigger than what the fender is, I think this is going to have to go up to that body line, and I'm going to have to trim this body out to make it so that these huge chunky tires will fit. We're running the I think they're 4.8, the Pro X's from Proline. They're a little bit bigger than a 475. This isn't really a comp truck. It's more of a trail truck. So with trail trucks, the rules go right out the window. No one cares. Let's just have fun with it and make cool scale videos. These, you can see, these are the top parts for it. Yeah, I'm not sure what I did, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as it goes. We'll do it live. All right, so these are my drawings. So I should probably talk about this real quick. Happy cooking, yeah, happy cooking. I'm not going to even try my Julia Child's voice. Don't ask. All right, so you older people probably know what that is. So let's turn this around here real quick. So what I did in CAD is I did the whole car in CAD, including the 3D body, and then I drew my cage with all my clearances in 3D, on my model. And so that way what I can do is I can export it and I can have kind of like a roadmap of what I need to get done. So then I explode it and then I put just like the planes, the main planes, the main hoops that I need, I put those down so I can just make those and then trim them. So like my process is I start with the bottom rocker panel rail and then I build off of that. So I like to make like a substructure or like a superstructure, I guess, and go from there. So what that means is on a car, this is your rocker panel. Which way is this? This way. This is your rocker panel. So I already pre-cut these bars. I think that's the right one. We'll find out. I pre-cut these bars so that they will land here. And then we'll build everything. We'll clamp this down and build everything off of that. So there's a hoop that goes behind it, and there's a hoop that goes over the front of the hood here, and well, that way we'll try to square everything out. I'm also hoping that my compressor, it's going to go on. I know it will, and you guys are going to have to deal with that for a few minutes at a time. But I'm hoping that that doesn't get too loud on the mic. These are noise canceling, which is kind of nice because I don't think it makes it super loud for you guys. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay, let me grab this. If you guys have questions before I start, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up I'm going to put the table down, the build table, and then I'm going to set up the TIG. And I don't think you guys might be able to see this on the little camera, but every TIG is different. There's only a couple of things that I really am concerned about with that. So if you guys have any questions, throw them in right now. Now's a good time. I will take a look at that as soon as I get this table set up. And let me grab it here. All right. I'm actually going to loosen this up a little bit because I think I tightened it down too much. And when I tightened it down, it took it out of square. We'll get the tool real quick for that. Little T-bar action. I think this is the right size. Nope, a little smaller. Okay, I need one of those tracking cameras so it'll track me going around the shop so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I have these on lock washers because in theory I didn't want them to move a whole lot. You guys drinking your coffee? I made that big deal about my coffee. I haven't even had a sip yet. It is time. That happens in busy days at the shop. I get going and then I forget to even drink my coffee. Let's dust this bad boy off. I've been milling down a piece of wood in the shop. And as you can tell, I'm not a wood shop. So when I mill it down, there's dust everywhere. Yeah, gotta get that coffee in me for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna hit this really quick because what I did on mine, I don't know if the new ones come this way. I don't think they do. But I tapped all my holes. And I'll show you that tool in a minute if you guys remind me. Let me know how loud this is because it's going to be loud on my end. Not really, but I want to know how loud it is on your guys' end. I'll do it real quick. Actually, I can tell right now that my compressor is off. How loud was that? Tell me how loud that was, and then tell me how loud this is going to be, because I'm going to throw this compressor on, and it'll charge up for a second. Not bad. All right. All right, that's good. How's this? Why don't you guys ask me a couple questions while the compressor charges up? Tell me how loud that is. Air pump sounds fine too. Nice. All right. All right. Oh, sweet coffee. Yeah, buddy. All right, let's not get that. Oh, there we go. Now we got some power. So if you can't tell, these little spots here, I'm actually out of acetone, but those little spots are from the oil from when I tapped this a while ago. How's that? Lost the stream, he says. It says I'm still live. Sounds clear. Awesome. How does it sound with me talking over the compressor? Still muffled from my normal mic action. So that's the kind of scenario that I was talking about. If I had an external mic or a shotgun mic, this would be very difficult to talk over something like the compressor going on. It would just make it really tough. So having this mic on me is a little bit better. So I'm just deburring these here real quick. Apparently I forgot to. Good. I'll wait for the compressor to die down before I start talking about the TIG here. It should be any second now. Any second now. Must have been pretty empty. So I'm running I have an 80-gallon compressor here at the shop. Big industrial one. So it'll fill up and it probably won't run the rest of the show. So what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning the filler rod that I'm going to be using. And I'll tell you which rod it is in a second. Here's another trick I use. I never weld, well, I shouldn't say that, never say never, but I never, hardly ever run a full length of rod. I always cut mine in half. It makes it a lot easier for balance. So a trick to that is you take your cutters and you find balance. Right? You find where that balances it out. Right there. And then you clip it there. And you should have two pretty close to even pieces. So you might be saying to yourself, this looks a little different. This looks a little different than what you might be welding with, and you're probably right. So depending on the application, it's always, you always want to be specific to what you're welding. These tiny trucks are, to me, more artistic than they are engineering wise. Because let's be honest, one baby tack, if it's done right, should hold just fine for an RC truck. So this filler rod is actually called silicon bronze. Silicon bronze, if you guys aren't welding nerds like me or metal guys or anything like that, maybe I'll wait to see if anyone pops in the chat about this. Silicon bronze is super useful. You can do a very specific thing. I'll see if anyone answers in it. So the melting temperature of silicon bronze is a lot lower. You're technically brazing with it, but if you hit it right and you melt your base metal, you get your puddle to flow a little bit faster, you will be welding with it, but technically it melts a lot lower than any of the material that you're going to be welding with. Also, if done right, it kind of leaves a nice gold weld. Not like a stainless weld, but it's just like almost like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a copper braze, almost. So the actual name of it is ERCUSI-A. So I'll hold this up so you guys could see it. Hopefully you guys can see it. Anybody know what silicon bronze is good for? Bueller? So, is that even on the screen? Nope, it's not. Here you go. I'll put it down here so you guys can see it and you guys can zoom in. I have a hard time knowing where it actually is in space. There you go. ERCUSI-A. So silicon bronze can weld dissimilar metals together. It can actually, it's good for cast metals. It's good for, you can technically, if done right, weld silicon bronze or weld steel to aluminum with it. You can look it up and check it. I'm 100% sure. I'm taking out my mic for a second because I need to blow my nose and I cannot hit mute. So you guys are just going to have to deal with it. Shop talk. Sorry about it. And I'm not a quiet nose blower at all. All right. Hopefully that's better. Hopefully I don't blow your ears out either. I'm back. Okay. So, TIG welding. I have mine, this dial here, controls how much power I'm going through. So I am going to be probably in the 120 range. It's saying 118 there. I'm set to DC. I have my foot pedal going. I don't have the pulse. Everything else is probably fine. My post gas, I'll turn it up just a hair. So my gas is set at, what's this set at? It's set at almost 30 psi. I run my post flow or my flow pretty high, just because I like to have a nice, clean, stable environment. So yeah, I'll probably put it around 30, and we'll go from there. So here's what I got to do first. These scale metal supplies doodads are pretty rad, because you can clamp things down fairly easily and make them all straight, and like, you're basically making a jig for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to baseline this back here, and it comes with screws also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up these screws and screw down kind of like your baseline, if you will. Okay, it comes with long ones and it comes with short ones. I also have some of my own over here. So actually, those are probably for something else. Surprise, surprise. For me, I think I grabbed the wrong ones, but I've got the right ones here. Unless I tapped them with something different, which is also highly likely. What did I tap this with? I tapped that with M4. Well, I tapped it with M4s. That's going to be a problem, because I don't think I brought any M4s with me today. Let me just make sure. Yep. No dice, Jack. Okay, so time to improvise. Okay, so these have the right one in there. So if I really wanted to, actually, you know what? I'm going to do it that way. Even though I tapped them with the M4 versus the M3, I can, with a longer screw, still lock this in place. So I think I'm going to go I just got to make sure that I'm going to capture the holes in the right spots here. So I have wing nuts that I could put on the back side. I just need the longer screw. There we go. Got one there. Now let's put this other one in. And put another wing nut on All right, how you guys doing in the comments? I haven't seen any. I see people watching, but I haven't seen many comments lately. Thought I'd probably get more questions about setting up the TIG machine or about the silicon bronze. Not sure why I'm having problems starting this wing nut. There we go. All right. There we go. Did me blowing my nose scare you guys away? It's okay. All right, so I'm going to see if I can put this on here. And see if I can lock it down. Let's see, I can put one there and would be solid. Or I could just lock this down. Maybe I'll just do that. I think I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to lock one down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it to it. So these little clamps are so handy because now I can clamp this down like this. That's not going anywhere. And then I put my crossbar on. Boom. There you go. Just kicking back and watching. Nice. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I pre-bent this earlier because I didn't want to fight it. These bends are always the pain in the butt bends. And to be honest, I think I'm going to have to section this because I feel like this is a little too wide. Just for the way I want it anyway. Yeah, that one's a lot closer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to section this piece, which is a little bit not what I wanted to do. But in fabricating, sometimes you got to do it. It's okay because if I section this and bring it together, the reason why it's okay is because it will have a hoop that comes down to this point, and you know it's not the end of the world. But let's take some measurements real quick. I would rather do it right the first time than excuse me. I'd rather do it right the first time than stare at it for eternity and hate it. So I am going to take out about 1/2 inch. So something you guys can get that really helps out is a self-centering tape. These self-centering tapes are awesome. Thank you, James. Because what happens is if you measure and you know that you're 6 1/4, it'll automatically tell you what the halfway point is, which is 3 1/8. So I cheat and I do that all the time. So if I'm at 3 1/8, which is right here, I will go to 1/4 inch, then I'll mark where my 1/2 inch is, I'm going to cut right there. All right. Let me blow my nose one more time. I'll have to remember next week to take my allergy med before I do the live. I haven't had to use them because the weather hasn't been bad for them. Okay, so important before you start cutting, shield. I wear an apron. This apron is a show apron. I really don't trust it, but I'm going to use it. And I wear gloves all the time. Except for when you're doing drilling processes, don't wear gloves because then your finger can get sucked up into the drill motor. I wear all that, wear ear protection, all that kind of stuff. Still going. Yes, sir. What time is it? Ooh, it's been an hour. I haven't even welded yet. Look at that. We're destined to weld. We are destined to weld. Here we go. I'm going to cut this real quick. I'm going to clean up this edge. All right, so actually I'm not done cutting yet, but that should get me pretty close to where I want to be. With this all set up like this. Yep, I like it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, let's weld a little bit. Let's tack this together real fast. And then we'll at least get this piece hooked up. So I'm putting that down there. Let's get my welding hood. Okay, so when you're TIG welding, any kind of welding, take off your ring. It's not good for your ring. And I'm going to say wear gloves all the time. You may or may not see me wear my gloves all the time. The other thing to do, your first weld of the day, just like with MIG welding, hit it. You can probably hear that hissing. That's the argon going straight into my lungs. So you want the gas to be at the very front of the machine. Silicone ring for the, yep, exactly. Yeah, I need to, maybe I can get a company like that to sponsor because I definitely need something like that. Okay, so my welding hood is on. Very important. I see a lot of RC welders, when they go to weld, their hand isn't secure or isn't supported by something and they're trying to balance it. That is a recipe for disaster. I mean, you have to be like super, super steady to do that. I would tell you not ever to do that. I would tell you to get something to rest your hand on. I know I have a 1, 2, 3 block somewhere around here. You guys see it on the table, yell it out at me because I have them here all the time. Maybe I should take a look back, take a step back and look at it. Well, I don't see it, but I have this other block here that I'm going to use. So if you can stabilize your hand like this, then you could really lock in where you're going to be when it comes to keeping your tungsten, your tungsten out of your puddle. So I like to be probably 332s away. This rod, the silicon bronze rod, I probably would have stepped down to 16th. This is 332. But they didn't have it in stock when I got it. So next time I'll have some 332, or some 16ths. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start my arc. And you probably can't see it, but I'm very light on the arc, and I'm walking back and forth between the two pieces. Now, the pieces will wet out, and then once they start wetting out, then I dab my filler rod. And I let the gas stop, then I pull it away. So let me show this up on the screen here. And don't forget, every time you weld something, it's going to be hot. So I always say the welder's tip, don't just grab it, tap it a couple times, see how far you can get close to it before it's too hot to hold, and we're good. Okay, so let's see if I can get this in camera here, in frame without burning my hands. Let's see, there. So you could see here the weld. You could see how so you could see how the heat is almost perfectly even on both sides of the metal that I was welding. That means I had my heat perfectly distributed, and you can see that the profile of the weld is pretty flat. So basically what I did is I heated up that joint and let the weld flow into the joint. And so now I'm going to hit it from the other side and do the same thing. And that one tack, I don't think you could see here, but that one tack got basically all the way around 180 degrees on this pipe. So I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to tack it the same way. Thank you, sir, for the skills comment. I've been doing it for a long time. I would say this is not my first rodeo welding. I'm not, I guess you could say I'm not a welder I guess it's my profession, but it's not like a structural welder or anything like that. I do artistic stuff and signs and that kind of thing, architectural stuff. I was once certified, but my business doesn't really tell me I have to be certified, so. And when you weld with a silicon bronze, where you go with the heat is where the filler metal will go. So again, you can see here, it's getting warmer now. But you can see there that I'm almost all the way around. There's a little gap that I have to fill up, but I'm not going to worry about that because that is where the hoop's going to go for the windshield. But this is strong enough now where I'm not really worried about it. I mean, I could maybe break it, but there's no really point to doing that right now. But you can see that my heat transfer is still pretty even. So let's see how even we are. Yeah, I mean, we're almost like perfectly even. I'm at, let's see, that's 2.5 on the center point, and it's almost a half an inch either side. So I'm happy with that. Now, this is perfect scenario for welding, right? So everything's flat. I think that's one of the things I always joke about when I get interns or kids that come in that weld. I'm like, yeah, sure. You can, they call themselves welders. I'm like, yeah, you can weld a joint that's like perfectly set up for you, all that kind of thing. And it's like, well, let's see how you do when you're hanging upside down and when you're hot and you don't have all the stuff you need and want to have in place. Let's see how you are then, because that's what we say separates the men from the boys when it comes to that kind of thing. So, and incidentally, if you didn't know, female welders are actually, it's kind of like a physiological thing. They're actually more often than not better welders than men are. They just have some kind of touch that makes them good at it. So what I'm doing here now is I'm putting this rod up, and I'm going to see where I want to cut this. So that we're pretty even. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a buffer. Yeah, they have more patience for sure. They just have a real steady hand a lot of the times. Okay, so here's something that's really nice. So when you have this kind of baseline set up, it makes life a lot easier to measure. Where'd my ruler go? Right here. It's a bad thing once everything's metal colored, then it's hard to find on the table. So that's another quick little tip. I had a bunch of metal shaving burrs on my ruler here. If you slap it against the table and kind of throw it off at the same time, it cleans your stuff right off. So, okay, so we are, let's see. Yep, that's still hot. We are approximately 3 3/16 down. I am going to go down to 3.5 because I want a little bit of buffer. I don't want to these are kind of the first critical ones, and I don't want to make it so hard for myself that it's too tight against the body. I'd rather the body be hovering above it just a hair. So I say 3.5. So I mark my line, and then I mark the line what side to cut of the bar. So I did that little line here saying I'm cutting this side of the line. That'll make your cuts, because if you cut on the line, you might be proud one way or another. If you cut on one side of the line, you're going to be more accurate. And then sometimes, you might cut on top, on bottom. If you make that line first, then you're going to be way more consistent with it. So I like to have this here so I can put my hand down on it. Let's get this one, this shield. And these gloves are for cutting and for MIG welding, not for clean TIG welding. Let me read these comments here in a second. Let me get this cut. Let me clean this up, and then let me tell you something. All right, so let's talk about making a joint real quick. Not the soup dog style, but the welding joint. So Actually, let me back up one more quick thing before I say something else about it. So when I'm cutting, something very important to see is that when you cut something and you're down here, I also rested my hand against it so I could be more stable. But I never, ever put my hands in front or behind the cutting wheel. It's always off to the side. Because if the cutting wheel breaks, if anything happens, I don't use a shield or a guard on my grinder, which I should. Oh, should turn the other way. But if anything breaks, it's odds are it's going to go forward or backward. I have my shield on, I got my apron on. Sometimes if I get freaked out, I wear sleeves, leather sleeves. And so that just helps things out immensely and it makes me feel safe about it. So like I started down here, cut like that, and then I moved it up here and I cut like that. Always, take your time and be safe versus not. So let me move my hood over here. Okay, let's see what these comments are saying real quick. Done a little mostly MIG wire feed. TIG looks much better. It does. You can get on another video, I'll set it up so that I'm doing some TIG. Some MIG. Probably when I do the Wupacabra, all of that will be MIG. That'll go fast because it's all interior cage, nothing's exterior. Because this is exterior, I wanted to TIG weld it. Hello, Eclectic Electric. I always have a hard time saying your name. What's going on? As a 12-volt electrician, I've worked with a lot of welders. Yep, usually they have more patience. I think that was in regards to the women welders. Okay, so now we should be able to put this on. I'm going to check clearances real quick just to make sure. So this, actually, put this back here. This is the one. Yep, that one's all cleaned up. Let's put that there. Let's see if I can get this lined up. I'm going to line it up with the body seam. That should get me pretty close. And this should go right over the top, like so. Oops. Yep, that's a tight fit. So I think I'm going to put that down right there, just in front of the cowl. Oh, yeah, that'll look nice. Beautiful. Okay. Whoa. All right, so let's see if I can use another one of these. Jigs from Scale Metal Supplies. I think I already have one set up. Which one is it? So this jig piece is pretty cool. Don't know. That's not the right one. That's it. Let's take this little stub out. Is that body made of metal? No. I don't have that much skill. I'd like to try that one of these days. That's a 3D printed body that I didn't design it. I downloaded the file, but I did modify it heavily so that it would work for the application. It's chopped. And the bed is different, the hood is different. There's quite a lot of different to it. So let's see. Let's see if I can. Actually, I'm going to probably put this a little bit further towards the center. And we will weld one at a time. So this is why this is cool. I'm going to put that there. Is that one tall enough? Yep. Sure is. It's actually a little too tall. Needs to come down a couple holes. Thanks, man. No, I didn't weld it all together. Let's see. I think that's the right height that I want to be at. All right, so that helps me get that in place. I think I can get my torch in there. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that down. I'm going to try to get this a little bit more straight up and down. I'm not going to need my block for this one because I can rest it on the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that there just to keep it straight. There we go. All right, so now let's tack this one together. Hopefully everything stays in place. This one I'm probably going to run a little more heat into because I'm going to try to get the two metals to fuse together first. And then by doing that, I think we'll have a better joint here to start off with. So there we go. I got the heat going, getting it pretty warm. Let's take a look here. Yep, that looks good. Looks good for my house. So now this is pretty straight up and down. It's not too twisted. It pulled a little bit. But that's okay, because then when I do the next one, it's going to lock it in square. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to flip this around like so. And now we're cooking with gas, as they say. So I'm going to try to make sure that this is pretty perpendicular. 90 degrees there. So anytime you weld something, the metal needs somewhere to go. So it's going to want to twist and it's going to want to pull. So like think of a sandcastle. Like if it's just a column, a sandcastle column, right? At the base of the sandcastle, if you're heating that base up and the corner starts to melt away, what's going to happen is that sandcastle is going to want to lean. So if you start putting a ditch in there, it's going to want to lean. So the idea is you want to preload it sometimes, which means build the sandcastle a little bit to the left, and then if you heat it up, it'll pull and it'll get straight by the time you put your filler rod in. So then you'll be straight up. There's not an exact science to this. It's an experience thing. It's knowing how much heat to put into something, how much filler rod to throw at something. It's kind of a unforgiving process. But if you do it right, so I'm just tacking this together, when I get to the back side, I'll be able to say, okay, now I can put this piece and square it up based off of the back side. Because like right now I can see that this piece has to go forward just a hair to square it up. And that's pretty close, but not quite there. You can see that this has to twist back slightly. Now we're a lot closer. Okay, there we go. Let's get this off. Same thing, heat. And right there is where I start to see some puddle wetting. Let the gas post flow go until it's done. It's done now. Now I can take that away and the weld's nice and clean. So those tacks are on the inside of the frame. When I'm done, so you can see here, I tacked it on the inside of the frame. So when I'm done, I'll go through and I'll finish weld everything, and that'll be on the outside, and it'll be a nice looking weld. So now what I got to do, hopefully it's cooled. I'm gonna slide that in. So now we're looking good. Look at that. So now we got the hoop to go over the top. I've got this one that I've got to put over the back side here. And I'm not sure. I think I'm just going to square it out by kind of blowing it out a little bit, because then I'll make a nice little Nerf bar there. And I think I'll have to measure this just to make sure we're kind of even, because I don't want to weld it on and have it be crooked. So I'm going to measure this and see where we're at. We'll see if we're close to even. So we're just a little over 3 5/8. And this one is under. Yep, I see that now. Okay, so let's see. We are at 3 1/4. 3 1/4 there. So I'm going to mark this one at 3 1/4 and then trim this down. Can't see. So I'm going to cut. Let's erase that real quick. I'm going to cut that part. So I'm going to cut to the bottom of that. Let's get the other shield on. Gloves. setting my hand with my fingers, touching the inside of that line. My other hands are out of the way. Now we're looking good. Okay, so let's talk about the joint here real quick. So there's a couple different joints you can do. A fillet weld, or let's say joint prep. Fillet welds are basically 90% of what you're doing here. That's when it's just like you're stacking pieces on top of each other, like that. Now, if you wanted to come to a point, you would miter it, and that would still kind of be a fillet weld. You could lap it like this, which was a lap joint. So what's common is you see a lot of people that, especially when they're brazing, they do what's called saddle joint. And what that does is that takes away the material so that it creates a saddle. Let's see if I can draw this real quick. So this isn't a smooth surface, so bear with me. So if I have the end profile of the pipe, so that's looking at the tubing like this, right? Now, if I want to join another piece, I can join it right to the top like that. But then the problem is what happens, and I don't see this as a problem, to be honest, but then what happens is you have this kind of negative space right here. Right? So you'll have this negative space that I use that to fill with my filler rod. And so with that, when I grind my material, I grind it with a little bit of a bevel to it. See, I don't think you can see it, but basically what it does is that, and this is the tube. Actually, let's draw a big surface. So if this is the end of the tube, my tube has these two little fillets, these chamfers on the side of the top surface. And what that does is that makes my filler rod go in a little smoother, and it lays flat with the profile of the metal. Now, what some people do is that they want to do a saddle joint, and this is more common for brazing. So if you have your tube that looks like this, and then your metal comes up, and it sits like a saddle on the tube, that also makes your joint really well, but then you have buildup on the front, on the back side. So essentially what solder does is that it's like a glue, and it penetrates inside the joint, and it just kind of like gets on the surface part of the steel, or copper, or whatever metal you're doing. The weld actually melts the two metals together, and then you fuse it with having filler rod that goes in, and it also bridges the gap of the molecules of the metal. So what this looks like at the profile of the tube is you make a U shape. And what that does, that sits on the tube itself, and it just sits like a saddle. Like if you're like on a horse's saddle is shaped to match its back. Same kind of thing. Because I do all mine in welding, I don't really focus on that too much. It's a good practice, but I don't think it's super necessary for what I'm doing. And to be honest, like I said, most of this to me is just kind of artistic stuff. So I don't ever really get too crazy with that kind of detail. You can. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a little much for me, I would say. Okay, so let's test this out again. check a million times before you go. I just wanted to see where I had to put this rod to make it work. And I'm going to put it right at the end. And that's going to be right behind the back hoop, because we've got the shock tower that comes out here that we did last week. So put that down. Let's get this one here. We're going to do the same thing with the, I'm going to do it differently this time. I'm going to clamp this down and use this as a perch. Okay, so that's clamped down. Just because I'm going to have some problems kind of reaching in here, I can see. Maybe not. I'll be all right. Okay. Let's get the hood back on. Burn this in. So I'm going to tack this down, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check for square. So I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to bring the piece over that I need to make it all line up. And I'm just going to check for square, and that'll tell me if I'm close or not. Being close is all I want. I think I'll probably be, I don't know, within a 16th. And that's probably pretty solid. I'm going to find a good way of, hey, I know a good way. Let's put in my little jig. All right, those that are still with us, where are you watching from? You guys in Washington, like me, or are you somewhere else? There we go. Look at that. Okay. Utah. Nice. I want to make it out to Moab sometime soon. Driven by it years ago. Okay. Here we go. Everything's lined up. Get the heat going. Arc looks good and stable. Time to dip. And I'm out. Boom. Post flow's done. Can you guys hear that post flow? Or the gas flow where it's like psh, and then it stops? Not sure if you guys can hear that or not. That's a good weld. It's a little hot. That's all right. Okay, so if I put this in the spot that I want it, which is somewhere around there, and then I measure, this is the way you check square. Actually, I could probably just put this like that. And the way you check square is you put it on one corner and you go to the edge, and I'm like 16, 7/8. I'm 10 and 7/8 about to the edge there. 10 and 7/8, and about a 16th less there. So I'm a tiny bit out of square. And I can kind of see it already. I think what needs to happen is this needs to just twist a little bit. That's hot. this could use a little twisting too. Okay, so here's where this gets difficult. Because this last weld is kind of hard to, well, let's see. Maybe I'm making it harder than it needs to be. Maybe I can tack it down like this, and maybe I can pull it over with my jig. I bet you I can. Okay, so Casey, you said you can hear the gas stop. Good. Okay, let's see if I can get this. Nice and tight there. Trying to get this to settle. This is where the MIG welder is nice, because then I can make it so that it'll just stay where I want it to stay. The other thing I can do is I can probably clamp this here, and it'll pull everything down with the weight. And I know I have another one of these clamps. Ah! Here we go. Boom. Everything's dialed now. Let's tack this in place. Okay. Gas going. Nice stable gas flow. Arc. Can't see it. There we go. Ooh, that's hot. There we go. That one's not as pretty. See if I can flood it out a little bit. That one's not as pretty. That's okay. It's having a hard time seeing it. It's kind of behind the wall there. But we did it. I wouldn't recommend quenching this stuff, meaning, to get it cooler so you can play with it faster. I wouldn't recommend that, just because it's kind of like there's no reason to shock the system. But there we go. Now we got everything to start building off of. Now it gets fun. Now we can kind of start going crazy with it, cutting all the pieces to it. Let's get this over here. Hopefully this isn't too hot. Look at that. Yes. So now what we do is I can take this piece that I pre-bent, hang it over the top here, and then I can start to connect the dots, right? So I'm going to connect one to here, one to here, one to here, And then I'm going to connect my hoop that I talked about, which is somewhere on the table. I know I bent one. There's this one, but then there's one that's this one, I think. I think this is my hoop. So this will come down like that, give it that angry eye look. I might actually bend this one a little bit more. Um, maybe something close to that instead. I like that look. That's what I did on the last one. So yeah, so now I've got to cut this so I can do the same thing, marry this together, and then I will put this on top, and we'll cut a piece that comes down to here and cut a piece that comes down to here, and then we'll have the whole center cab assembly almost. Once you get that kind of stuff done, then it's a lot easier to start building off of it, meaning I can build my fender hoops, I can build my bed rail that comes down, um, all that kind of stuff. So the bed rail, I don't know how I'm going to do that now. I think I'm going to have to do a sharp J turn there. We'll see. We'll see. But this is all the thing, or all that process, how it goes. Okay, so let's work on that top piece. I'm just going to stay alive, guys. I was going to only cut it at an hour, but if you guys are still in there, I'll stay alive and we'll keep the party going. I'm gonna kind of reset some of this bench here because I know I'm gonna start moving stuff around. So let's put that there. I actually have a stand that I can use. Talk about this in a second. There we go. Now I can see everything. Okay, so this is what I use. This is a speed tap, 4mm speed tap. What it does is that it has a little drill bit on the bottom here, and that'll index your hole, and then you run it down and it threads your material, which is super nice. So like I just ran it down and it threaded all my material down there. So makes life easy, especially for this. You know, it makes it so that I can use these jigs easily and move things around, all that kind of stuff. I should send a clearing tap through here just to, not all of them are super smooth. Some of them are a little harder to get into than others. So I might do that. Okay, if you guys have questions, now would be a good time for them while I'm getting kind of set up on the next section of this. Is this. I've got to figure out what the right dimension is to cut that in. I'm going to have another sip of coffee. Hopefully the iPad charges well. I can probably plug that in. Maybe I should do that real quick. Not sure how the phone is doing either. Let's see if I can get through this one spot, this one piece real quick before, and then we'll hopefully the batteries will stay together. All right, so this is always a tough part, trying to figure out symmetry. I guess I'm just going to go off of the cab, right? So I'm going to say cut it here. Hopefully that works without catching too hard. So when you're cutting something that's uneven like this, I go slow and I just really make sure everything's like I'm holding on to this piece, I'm holding on to the grinder really well, and just go slow. And then I get it to a point where I'm not all the way through, because once you get to that breakthrough point, sometimes that's where your grinder likes to catch. I like to go so I'm almost there and then break it off and then finish it out with the sander. All right, here we go. I'm just about there. I shut it down. So what I do is I hold everything firm, but I'm light on the pressure. So being light on the pressure really, so you can kind of see here how much is left. There's like not much left at all there. And so now what I can do is I can take this and basically break it off. Save that piece for something else. Grind this down. So that's ground down now. Now I can tack that together, and we should be pretty close. I can see that my cut line is a little off center, so my seam's going to be off center, but I think we're going to be right in the right neighborhood. I'm okay with my seam being off center, as long as, you know, everything is where I need it to be. I think that's the most important thing. So I'm going to weld this on the table. Because it's easier to clamp for me right now. So I'm trying to get this lined up. That looks pretty good. Again, so this is kind of where the glove thing goes. Once you start welding around and stuff, your table and surface will be a little warmer. So gloves are a good choice at this point. So there we go. Got that tacked. I'm going to flip it over and tack the other side. And you can see that it's a little out of square. It's got a little twist to it. We can take that out in a minute. So got some dirt in the metal here. It wasn't clean. You can hear it kind of sizzle a little bit. So that will make your weld not as shiny. But the nice thing, so stainless, if you're welding with stainless, what happens is that once you grind it, your stainless kind of blends together and looks the same. But with this kind of thing, once you start sanding it down, it stays gold. I see the twist. I'm trying to take it out here. But it's pretty close. Pretty close. Okay. Letting this cool for a second before we move too far forward. I want to figure out, I guess it might not touch the body, so maybe we're all right. Yeah, it's not on the body. Okay. So now I'm getting down to look at it, where I need to be. This is where a lot of your little drops help out. So like I have these little drops here. You can see how close they are or not. I'm probably just going to start with a new piece just because I've got the material. So again, this material you could pick up from scalemetalsupplies.com or yeah, that's where I pick up all this material, scalemetalsupplies.com. They have 3/16 solid stock, which is a little harder to work, or they have 3/16 DOM tube. The DOM tube is awesome. I like the DOM tube a lot, but if you're doing anything that you're going to want to take a beating with it, I would say with the solid stock. DOM tube, if you're not, DOM tube is awesome, but I would say think about your design a little bit more and support, like how you're supporting everything if you're using DOM tube, because it's a little bit more flexible. So if you're using something like on a scale rail, solid stock's probably better because it's going to be jumping and crashing, all that kind of stuff, and it'll hold its shape more. The DOM, you could get little dents and stuff in it. Not dents, but like it'll have, you know, if you crash really hard, it's going to show it. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking at it. Okay, so with this, I'm going to take a measurement and then I'm going to duplicate that to the next side. And so we're going to do one side at a time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack it and then tack the other side. And then we're going to marry it together. And then we'll do the front, marry it together, and it should be pretty good. This is the part where magnets come in handy. Whoa, here's a cool tool. So these little magnets, if you go to scalemetalsupplies.com again, and tools we use, these little magnets are awesome because they're posable. So you can click it like this and then put your piece up to it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to click it over and put my piece to it. Makes life super easy. Super duper easy. These were what we used before the scale builders table or whatever. I'm not sure what your calls this. Mini fab table, I forgot. I'm having a brain fart right now. But that's what we used before that. And these would really help out position your metal. Now, electricity is magnetic. There's a lot of magnetism in electricity. So if you have this magnet near your joint, it's not going to be problematic, but you're going to have, like if you're TIG welding, your arc is going to wander and it's going to flutter around the magnet. So you want this to be a decent way. So like for instance, if I'm welding this joint, I want this magnet to be down here so it's not affecting this joint very much. So just things to kind of think about. Okay, let's get this piece up here. And I think I want this to be like this. And I want it to be right there. So let's measure this out. Let's measure this out and see kind of where we are ballpark. So we are at 1.5 inches. So I know when I cut my next piece, I'm going to measure that out at 1.5 inches, and that pillar will be identical. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same 1.5 inch piece and put it on the side here and see if that will match up. Okay, let's measure out another 1.5 inches. Tell me how you're doing in the chat, if I should keep this train rolling or not. So one other way you could do that is you could tack two pieces together, and by tacking those two pieces together, you could have identical lengths when you cut through it. But I don't think it's necessary. And these little pieces are going to carry the heat and keep them in there a lot longer. Awesome. So hey, real quick, Brandon, before you hop off, what's your opinion? So with these type of videos, should I just shoot them as lives and then people can watch the replay, or should I make a edited video? Because the edited video, you're not going to see the whole process. It's going to be a bunch of jump cuts, but these you'll see more of the meat and potatoes of what's actually happening. What's your thoughts on that? Because I think that's the way I would like to do it, and then people can, I can change the screenshot and people are the what's it called? I can change the thumbnail, and then people can see what we built at that time. And I think that's the way I want to do it. Yep, I'm just going to go with 1.5 inches all the way around, make it easy. And I don't know if I can go in later. The only problem with doing these and keeping them as lives is that the video quality is not as good. You enjoy the lives? Yeah, I'm just thinking about people coming back and watching them. If you keep the live and add chapters, I think it'd be a good shorter 10, 15 minute edited video. Yeah, I think so too. The short videos are probably good. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough, it's like no free lunch. I don't know. My goal right now is to get the watch hours up, so I can hit different milestones. But the lives definitely help out, because if I actually did have 20 people watching for an hour, that's 20 watch hours right there, which is nice. But But yeah, it's you know, chapters are nice. It's hard to see, you know, it's hard. The thing is that these videos are hard to make short. Like I could do the bend and braze, you know, and show how to do the bend and braze and weld that up, but that's still a 20-30 minute process. Um, and you know, doing the jump cuts is probably a little easier, but it's a lot of editing to edit down that process. This is a little bit smoother. Chapters, yeah, I think would be good. I could even, if the video quality isn't terrible, I could even download it and cut it up and then repost it as a video later. So, and cut it up into smaller pieces. What do you guys think about that? If I took this video and I cut it up into smaller chunks, and then I was able to just put that little chunk on, that might be a little easier for people to watch. I don't know. Trying to navigate this YouTube stuff. Yep, I have the same thing. So I can't, watching an hour-long live is very hard for me to do. If I am, it's a good time to cut it. So should pop up again. Let me know if it popped back up. Okay, you guys probably have all the audio back, all that kind of thing. I was getting a phone call, so it's back now. Yep. All right, guys. So I'm actually going to end it here. I didn't realize what time it was. It's already 10:30. I'm going to end it here, and I'll try to edit some more stuff that'll show this halo ring kind of coming together, and we'll go from there. So until next weekend, we'll see you then next weekend. I don't know how I'm going to do this live, to be honest, because we're going to be racing at the Northwest Hobby Expo. So we're going to be racing there. I'll probably go live for a couple of minutes. I might change the time, but we'll figure that out. Or maybe, depending on what time our race is at, maybe I'll come here and weld for a little bit. We'll see. There's a way to record your lives on your computer. Yep, I have. That's what we can do here. The problem is that I'm not a huge fan of the video quality, because this video quality here is only 720. So I don't think it's very crisp like the other ones are. But yes, I'm bringing my crawlers to the Hobby Expo, Mini and 110. So I'm going to have my Lazarus on display. I'm going to have Frankenwagen on display. I'm going to bring the scale rails. I'm actually going to sell my 2 scale rails. So those are going to be on display for sale. The Baja Ray will be on display for sale. I'm selling those 3 trucks. And depending on if I get very far with this over the next couple days, I might bring this as to show as like a work in progress kind of a thing. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm going to be at the races. I'm probably going to have at least 1, maybe 2 race cars that are new to us. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to be staying a novice, but we're going to be racing stadium truck because my kid likes trucks more than he does buggies, and we're going to kind of groom him into racing stadium. However, outdoor stadium truck class this year is going to be unlimited. So we are going to race in our novice. We're not anywhere close to moving out of novice yet. So, and especially getting a new ride. This is going to be the first time that we can actually like practice and dial in with our own car. So I think that'll probably help things out quite a bit. So, all right, guys. So I have to walk around the screen. But until next time, take it easy. We'll see you on the other side. Don't do drugs. Eat tacos. My wife always makes fun of me saying that, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And take care, everyone. Be safe. We'll see you next time.